Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections of mind, and welcome back to another installment in my reaction series to each and every episode of Star Trek Picard Season 1, airing on CBS All Access. Now, if you haven't seen one of my reaction videos before, this is just my short form reaction series where I just give my brief thoughts on each episode of Star Trek Picard Season 1 as they come out, and just some, if possible, some what I thought about the episode, some things that worked, some things that didn't work in my opinion, and if possible, some things that may have seemed familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, with that being said, just get this right out of the way. There will be spoilers for Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 3. So if you've not seen the most recent episode of Star Trek Picard, this episode, yet, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later because there will be spoilers throughout the rest of the video. So with that in mind, without further ado, let's get into Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 3, entitled The End is the Beginning. This episode picks up pretty much right where we left off, once again, in Episode 2, where Picard is trying to recruit people on a mission to go find the sister of Daj, the synthetic life form that sought Picard out in the first episode and who was killed. But he is trying to find this girl before the Romulan intelligence secret society does, and he is first trying to recruit a ex-Starfleet officer who he had dealings with, and who got swept up in the wake of the attack on Mars and his subsequent resignation. And also he's trying to recruit a pilot with a unregistered ship in order to get to this girl. And all this is happening while at the same time the girl is on the Borg Cube during the Reclamation Project, digging more into, we learn more about these former Borg and what happened to this cube. An interesting tidbit, the fact that this a Romulan scout ship was assimilated by this cube, was the last ship to be assimilated by that cube before the hive mind shut down on that cube, and the cube was irreparably damaged, it seems. So it would seem the assimilation of these Romulans is directly linked to what happened to this cube. And we also see that this girl who does not know that she is a synthetic life form is running into more and more evidence that she cannot explain how she knows certain things or is able to do certain things with these former Borg drones. And the Romulans surrounding her are seen as trying to keep her from learning the truth, and we still don't quite know what their end game is. All this is happening in this episode. What did I think of this episode? I think this is a better continuation of the storyline of Picard as it was set up in the pilot than the previous episode was. So the previous episode I thought was just a massive information dump, which was important, but it felt a little slowed down, and as I said in my previous reaction, I was hoping for more in this episode, and I did get more. There was definitely stuff that happened, the attack on Chateau Picard by the Romulan hunter force there, the fact that we got to see Hugh, I believe Jonathan Del Arco, I believe is his name, who was a former Borg, who was released from the hive mind, re-assimilated, then severed from the hive mind again, and we don't know quite how he ended up on this Borg Cube or how he got his implants removed, and ended up in a position of directorship of that project somehow. But it was interesting to see him again. I'll be curious to see how he plays into events as they go forward. The clandestine elements of this storyline, they were introduced in the previous episode, but now they're still there, but they're more pushed into the background as a clandestine opera. The plot line should be, where we only get glimpses and little hints as to what's going on in this episode. I thought that worked really well, and I thought that this we finally see at the end of this episode concludes with Picard the beginnings of his makeshift ragtag crew, and him saying the legendary engage, and the ship goes to warp. That's a good indicator that now finally we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of this Picard series, and we finally have done a decent enough establishing the plate of this meal of a series, as it were. And I'm definitely looking forward to what's happening in the next episode to come. Judging by the preview, it looks pretty more action intensive, perhaps. Some things I think don't work, and I saw this in a different review that pointed this out, but it was one of those things that I couldn't quite put my finger on what really bothered me, but they pointed it out, and I tend to agree with them. Star Trek doesn't really need to be full of expletives at all. Just the occasional one, yes, can be used effectively, but this has the feel of a series that's trying to give itself an edge to try to have people take it seriously, and I don't necessarily need that. And I think that in a Star Trek film, that series, that hurts the writing a little bit. It seems like they're just going for, it's written as if these characters aren't in the 24th century, the end of the 24th century, and they really should be, in my opinion. So I think that's a bit of a weakness in the writing front. But other than that, I thought this episode was pretty much well paced for the most part. We got to see good banter between the new characters that are being introduced left and right. My one concern is that with all these new characters, that they may threaten to overshadow Picard as more interesting characters than Picard himself, which is not necessarily the worst thing, but it is a danger, I think, going forward. I kind of thought that was sort of one of the main problems with the film Black Panther, in that the main title character is King T'Challa, and he should be the one that we're focusing on, should be the most interesting one, but the supporting cast was much more interesting than T'Challa was in that movie, and I thought that was a negative on how it was supposed to be about him, and he wasn't the most interesting person in there. I feel like there's a danger that might happen with Picard going forward, but that might just be me, and that should be my opinion. You may feel differently on that front. But overall, I thought this was a pretty decent episode, and good, much better mix of information dump to actual things actually happening and progressing the plot. So I'm definitely looking forward to episode 4. And as far as connections to other the media that's come before it, I don't have anything specific for this episode, but the way that this episode approached getting a gang together and doing it behind the backs of the authorities, it definitely had sort of a heist film element to it, like you've seen in like the Ocean's films or any number of heist type films in the past. So those are my main thoughts on Picard episode 3 of the first season. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to tune in here every Thursday for my reaction to each episode of Picard as soon as I see it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. And if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. My goal for 2020 is to hopefully get enough subscribers that I can actually get a more concise URL. That would be that's my goal for 2020, and I hope you can help me accomplish it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.